The CEO's Secret Assistant, Chapter 1, The Golden Card, Part 1, POV, Sarah, The Morning Disaster. My name is Sarah, and my life is a mess. Today started like every other day with a loud, annoying sound. My alarm clock was screaming at me. I looked at the time, 8:15 a.m. Oh no, 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 no! I jumped out of my small bed. I work at a coffee shop called the Daily Bean. My shift starts at 8 a.m. I was already 15 minutes late. I ran to the bathroom. I washed my face with cold water. I looked in the mirror. My hair was a disaster. It was messy and brown. I didn't have time to fix it. I put on my uniform, a simple green shirt and black trousers. I ran out of my apartment. I didn't have time for breakfast. My stomach was growling. I am so hungry, I thought. But I couldn't stop. I had to catch the bus. I ran to the bus stop. The big blue bus was pulling away. Wait, stop, I shouted. I waved my arms like a crazy person. The bus didn't stop. It drove away, leaving me in a cloud of grey smoke. I had to walk. It took me 20 minutes to get to the coffee shop. When I opened the door, a little bell rang. Ding! My boss, Mr. Miller, was standing there. He was a short man with a very red face. He looked at his watch. Then he looked at me. Sarah, he said. His voice was low and angry. You are late. Again. I am so sorry, Mr. Miller. The bus. I don't want to hear about the bus, he interrupted. Go to the kitchen, wash the dishes, then clean the floors. If you are late one more time, you are fired. Fired. That word scared me. I needed this job. I have a younger brother, Toby. He is 10 years old. Our parents died 3 years ago in a car accident. Now I have to pay for our small apartment. I have to buy his school books. I have to buy our food. I cannot lose this job. The storm and the stranger. The day was very long. I washed hundreds of cups. My hands felt soft and wrinkled from the hot water. By 4 p.m., the sky turned dark. It started to rain. It wasn't a light rain. It was a storm. The shop was empty because of the weather. I was cleaning the windows when the door opened. Ding. A man walked in. He didn't have an umbrella, but he wasn't very wet. He was wearing a black suit that looked very expensive. He was tall, maybe 190 centimeters. He had dark hair and a very sharp jawline. He looked like a king walking into a common room. He didn't look at the menu. He walked straight to the table in the corner. He sat down and opened a silver laptop. He looked busy. He looked important. And he looked very handsome. I felt nervous. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to him. Hello, I said. My voice was shaking a little bit. Welcome to the Daily Bean. What can I get for you? He didn't look up from his laptop. Black coffee, no sugar, no milk, just coffee. Right away, sir, I said. I went to the coffee machine. I wanted to make the best coffee in the world for him. I poured the hot black liquid into a ceramic cup. I walked back to his table. I was looking at him. I was looking at his blue eyes and his strong hands. Then, it happened. My foot hit a wet spot on the floor. My heart stopped. Wait, I gasped. The cup flew out of my hand. The hot black coffee splashed everywhere. It went on his laptop. It went on his white shirt. It went all over his expensive black jacket. The golden choice. The man jumped up. What the? He looked at his clothes. He looked at his laptop. Then, he looked at me. His eyes were like ice. I am so sorry, I cried. I grabbed a bunch of paper napkins from the next table. I started rubbing his jacket. I am so sorry, sir. I am a klutz. Please, don't be angry. I was panicking. I was rubbing his chest with the napkins. Suddenly, he grabbed both of my wrists. His grip was firm but not painful. His hands were very large. Stop, he said. His voice was like deep thunder. I stopped. I looked up at him. We were very close. I could smell his perfume. It smelled like expensive wood and rain. I can pay for the suit, I whispered. I knew I was lying. That suit probably cost more than my apartment. You can't pay for this, he said. He looked at my name tag. Sarah. I felt a shiver down my spine when he said my name. I am going to lose my job, aren't I? I asked. I felt tears in my eyes. He looked at me for a long time. The anger in his eyes changed to something else. Curiosity? He let go of my wrists. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet. He took out a card. It wasn't a normal business card. It was made of heavy gold metal. My name is Julian Thorne, he said. I am the CEO of Thorne Enterprises. I gasped. Everyone knew that name. He was one of the richest men in the city. I don't want your money, Sarah, Julian said. He handed me the gold card. I am looking for a personal assistant. Someone who is honest. Someone who, makes mistakes but tries to fix them. I looked at the card. It had his name and an address in the center of the city. Come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m., he said. Don't be late. He picked up his wet laptop and walked out into the rain. I stood there holding the gold card. My heart was beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. Was this a dream? Or was my life about to change forever? Chapter 1. The Golden Card. Part 2. POV. Sarah. The Walk Home in the Rain. After Julian Thorne left the coffee shop, I stood frozen for 5 minutes. The gold card in my hand felt heavy, almost hot. The rain outside was getting louder, hitting the windows like small stones. Sarah, what are you doing? Mr. Miller's voice snapped me back to reality. He was looking at the coffee on the floor and the wet table. You spilled coffee on a customer, a rich customer. Do you know who that was? I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, I whispered. I quickly hid the gold card in my pocket. Clean it up. And then go home, he barked. I am deducting the cost of that coffee and the cleaning from your paycheck, and don't come back tomorrow. You are suspended for 2 days without pay. My heart sank. 2 days without pay meant no meat for dinner this week. It meant Toby couldn't get the new drawing pens he wanted for his art class. I cleaned the floor with tears in my eyes. The floor was shiny again, but my future felt dark. I walked home because I didn't have money for a taxi and I had missed the last bus. The rain soaked through my thin jacket. By the time I reached our small apartment building, I was shivering. The building was old. The stairs creaked under my feet. Creak, creak. I opened the door to apartment 4B. It was small, but it smelled like cinnamon. Toby was sitting at the wooden table doing his homework. Sarah, you're soaking wet? Toby jumped up. He ran to the bathroom and brought me a dry towel. He is only 10, but sometimes he acts like the grown-up. Thanks, Toby, I said, giving him a weak smile. I sat down and took the gold card out of my pocket. It shined under the dim yellow light of our kitchen. Whoa, is that real gold? Toby asked, his eyes wide. I think so, I replied. I told him everything. I told him about the handsome man, the spilled coffee, and the job offer. Toby looked at the card and then at me. Sarah, you have to go. This is a sign. Maybe Mom and Dad sent him to help us. I hugged him tight. Maybe, Toby. Maybe. A night of worry. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Julian Thorne's blue eyes. They were so cold, yet they held a secret fire. Why me? Why would a billionaire want a clumsy waitress to be his assistant? I went to my closet. I only had one nice outfit. It was a white blouse and a grey skirt that I wore to my parents' funeral 2 years ago. I spent an hour ironing it until there wasn't a single wrinkle. I have to look professional, I whispered to myself. I have to change our lives. I counted my money. I had exactly $20 left in my emergency jar. I needed that for the train ticket to the city centre and maybe a cheap sandwich. If Julian Thorne was joking, I would lose my last $20 for nothing. But if he is serious, I thought, looking at Toby sleeping on the small sofa. If he is serious, Toby can have a real bed. We can have a home with a heater that actually works. The Thorne Tower. The next morning, the sun was shining. I took the train at 7:30 a.m. The city centre was beautiful and busy. People in expensive suits walked fast, carrying leather bags and drinking expensive lattes. I felt like an alien in my old skirt and cheap shoes. Then, I saw it. The Thorn Tower. It was a giant building made of glass and steel. It was so tall that the top disappeared into the clouds. The glass reflected the sunlight like a diamond. I took a deep breath. "You can do this, Sarah," I whispered. "For Toby." I walked through the revolving glass doors. The lobby was huge. The floors were white marble. There were giant paintings on the walls that probably cost millions of dollars. In the center, there was a long black desk with 3 receptionists. They all looked like models. I walked to the desk. My legs felt like jelly. "Hello," I said to the woman at the desk. Her name tag said Jessica. "I am here to see Mr. Julian Thorne." Jessica looked at my old clothes and my messy hair. She raised an eyebrow. "Do you have an appointment, miss? Mr. Thorne is a very busy man. He doesn't see people without a scheduled meeting." "He told me to come," I said. My voice was small. "He gave me this." I put the gold card on the marble desk. The receptionist's face changed instantly. Her eyes went wide and she stood up straight. The golden card?" "One moment, please." She picked up a phone and whispered something. A minute later, she looked at me with a fake smile. "Please follow me, Miss Sarah. Mr. Thorne is expecting you on the 50th floor. The private elevator is this way." As I walked toward the elevator, I felt everyone in the lobby looking at me. They were wondering who I was. I was wondering the same thing. The elevator was fast. My ears popped 1, 2, 3 times. When the doors opened, I was in a beautiful office. The walls were glass, showing the whole city below. Julian Thorne was standing by the window looking out. He wasn't wearing a suit today. He was wearing a black sweater with the sleeves pushed up. He looked even more handsome than yesterday. He turned around. A small, dark smile appeared on his face. "You're late, Sarah," he said. "By 2 minutes." The train was slow, I stammered. "In my world, slow is not an option," he said, walking toward me. He stopped just inches away. I could smell that same woody perfume. "But you came. That is the first step." He pointed to a desk in the corner of his massive office. On the desk was a brand new laptop and a stack of papers. "That is your desk," Julian said. "Your salary is $5,000 per month. Your job is to make sure my life is perfect. If I am hungry, you find food. If I am tired, you cancel my meetings. If I am angry, you stay out of my way." I gasped. $5,000? A month? That was more money than I earned in half a year at the coffee shop. "Do we have a deal, Sarah?" he asked. He held out his hand. I looked at his hand, then at the golden city outside the window. I thought of Toby. I thought of my broken life. I took his hand. His skin was warm and strong. "We have a deal, Mr. Thorne." "Good," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "Now your first task, get me a black coffee. And, Sarah, try not to spill it this time." Chapter 2. The Red Folder. POV. Sarah. My first hour. I sat at my new desk. It was made of dark wood and smelled like expensive polish. The chair was so soft it felt like sitting on a cloud. I looked at the silver laptop in front of me. It was much better than the old computer I used at school. "Sarah." Julian's voice came from the other side of the room. He didn't look up from his papers. "The coffee? Now." I jumped. "Yes, Mr. Thorne, right away." I ran to the small kitchen area in his office. It was hidden behind a glass wall. Everything was silver and black. There was a coffee machine that looked like a robot. I pressed the buttons carefully. Whir, drip, drip. I carried the cup to his desk. My hands were shaking. I remembered the disaster at the coffee shop yesterday. "Please don't trip. Please don't spill it," I prayed. I placed the cup on a small coaster next to his hand. Julian looked at the cup. Then he looked at me. His blue eyes were like a deep ocean. "Thank you," he said. His voice was calm today. "You're welcome, Mr. Thorne," I replied. "Sit down, Sarah. We need to talk about your duties," he said. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the city below. "I am a very busy man. I have enemies. I have friends who are not really friends. I need someone I can trust. Someone who is invisible. Invisible? I asked. But I am right here. He turned around and gave me a small smile. It was the first time I saw him smile, and my heart skipped a beat. I mean, someone who doesn't talk to the newspapers, someone who doesn't tell my secrets to other companies. Do you understand? I understand, I said. I am a very good secret keeper. The first paycheck. At 12 p.m., a woman named Mrs. Higgins came into the office. She was Julian's head of finance. She looked very serious. Mr. Thorne, the contracts for the new assistant are ready, she said. Julian pointed at me. Give them to Sarah. And Sarah, I want you to have your first month's salary today, in advance. My jaw dropped. Today? But I just started. I know, Julian said. But I saw your shoes, Sarah. And your coat. You cannot work for Thorne Enterprises looking like that. Take the money. Go to the shops downstairs during your lunch break. Buy a suit. Buy a dress. Buy everything you need. Mrs. Higgins handed me a small white envelope. I opened it. Inside was a check for $5,000. My hands started to shake. This was more money than I had ever seen in my life. Thank you, Mr. Thorne, I whispered. Thank you so much. Don't thank me, he said, turning back to his computer. Just work hard. Now go. You have 1 hour. The secret in the drawer. I went downstairs to the shopping mall inside the Thorne Tower. It was like a dream. I bought a beautiful black suit, a blue dress, and a pair of black leather shoes. I even bought a small toy car for Toby and a new box of chocolates for him. When I came back to the 50th floor, I felt like a different person. I went to my desk and started organizing the files. Julian was in a meeting in another room. The office was very quiet. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk to put my bag inside, but something was already there. It was a bright red folder. There was no name on the folder, no title, just a red colour that looked like a warning. I knew I should close the drawer. Julian said he wanted someone he could trust. But I was curious. Just one look, I thought. I opened the folder. Inside there were photos. They were photos of me. There was a photo of me working at the coffee shop. There was a photo of me walking Toby to school. There was even a photo of me at the bus stop yesterday. My heart started to beat very fast. 120 beats per minute. Why did Julian Thorne have photos of me? He didn't meet me by accident at the coffee shop. He was watching me. He knew who I was before he ever walked through that door. Suddenly, I heard footsteps. Clack, clack, clack. The door opened. It was Julian. He looked at me, then his eyes went down to the open drawer. Sarah, he said. His voice was no longer calm. It was cold, cold like ice. What are you doing in my drawer? I stood up quickly. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was just putting my bag away. Mr. Thorne, why are there photos of me in here? Julian walked toward me. He didn't stop until he was very close. He took the red folder from my hand and closed the drawer. Some questions are better left unanswered, Sarah, he whispered. He leaned down, his face only inches from mine. Do you still want the job? Or do you want to go back to your old life in the rain? I looked into his eyes. He was dangerous, I knew it now, but I also knew I couldn't go back. I needed the money, I needed to help Toby. I want the job, I whispered. Good, Julian said. He went to his desk and sat down. Then forget about the folder. Forget you saw anything. Now get me another coffee. I walked back to the kitchen. My legs were like jelly. My life was no longer simple. I was working for a man who was watching me, a man with secrets. What have I done? I wondered. Chapter 3. The Black Limousine. POV. Sarah. The Night Shift. The sun went down and the city lights began to sparkle like tiny diamonds. It was 7 p.m. Most of the people in the Thorne Tower had gone home, but Julian was still working. He was a machine. He didn't eat, he didn't rest, and he didn't stop. Sarah, he called out, we are leaving. I stood up quickly and grabbed my new coat. Are we going to another meeting, Mr. Thorne? No, he said, putting on his jacket. We are going to my home. I have a private dinner with a business partner, and I need you to take notes. I felt a knot in my stomach. His home? I thought about Toby. I needed to call him. Can I make a phone call first? I asked. I need to check on my brother. Julian stopped at the door. He looked at me for a moment. You are very dedicated to him, aren't you? He is all I have, I said simply. Julian nodded. Use the phone in the car. Let's go. The luxury of silence. We went down to the basement. A giant black limousine was waiting. A driver in a suit opened the door for us. Inside, the car felt like a private club. The seats were soft black leather, and there was a small fridge with expensive water. I called Toby. Hey, Toby, I have to work late tonight. There is pizza in the fridge. Lock the door and don't open it for anyone, okay? Okay, Sarah. Is the CEO boss nice? Toby asked. I looked at Julian. He was staring out the window, his face cold and perfect. He is? Interesting, Toby. I'll see you later. Love you. I hung up. The car was very quiet. The only sound was the rain hitting the roof. Why me, Julian? I asked suddenly. I didn't call him Mr. Thorne this time. The question just came out. He didn't look at me. I told you I need someone honest. But the photos, I whispered. You were following me. You knew I needed money. You knew I had a brother. Why? Julian turned his head slowly. The light from the street lamps flashed across his face. Because, Sarah, in this city, everyone wants something from me. They want my money, my power, or my blood. But you just wanted to pay for your brother's school books. I don't need a genius assistant. I need someone with a heart. I didn't know what to say. Was he being kind, or was he being dangerous? The mansion on the hill. The car stopped in front of a giant gate. It opened slowly and we drove up a long path surrounded by tall trees. At the end of the path was a house. No, it was a palace. It was made of white stone and had windows from the floor to the ceiling. Welcome to the Shadow Estate, Julian said. Inside, the house was cold. There were no family photos on the walls, no mess, no life. It was like a museum. The guest will be here in 10 minutes, Julian said. Go to the library. There is a computer there. Prepare the files for Project Phoenix. I walked into the library. It was a huge room with thousands of books. I found the computer, but while I was waiting for it to turn on, I noticed something strange. One of the bookshelves was slightly open. I walked toward it. My heart was thumping. Don't do it, Sarah. Remember what happened with the red folder, I told myself, but my hand moved anyway. I pushed the bookshelf. It moved silently. Behind the books was a hidden door. I pushed the door open. Inside was a small, dark room. There were no windows. On the wall, there were dozens of screens showing live video. I gasped. The screens were showing different parts of the city. One screen showed the coffee shop. Another showed the train station. And the last screen... My blood turned to ice. The last screen showed my apartment. I could see Toby. He was sitting on the sofa eating his pizza and watching TV. Do you like what you see, Sarah? I jumped and screamed. Julian was standing at the door. He wasn't angry. He was smiling, but it was a sad, dark smile. You are watching my brother? I shouted. I was shaking with anger. You are a monster. I am leaving. I don't want your money. I tried to run past him, but he caught my arm. He was very strong. Wait, he said. Look closer at the screen, Sarah. I looked. Behind Toby, near the window of our apartment, I saw a shadow. A man was standing on the fire escape, holding a knife. I am not watching you to hurt you, Sarah, Julian whispered in my ear. I am watching you because the people who want to kill me, they found out about you first. I am the only one keeping your brother alive. Chapter 4. The Training Room Pa. O.V. Sarah. The truth behind the screen. I couldn't move. My eyes were glued to the screen showing my apartment. The shadow on the fire escape moved closer to the glass. My heart felt like it was going to explode. Toby, I whispered. We have to save him. My men are already there, Sarah, Julian said calmly. He pulled out a small radio from his pocket. "Alpha Team, take him down. Now." On the screen, 2 men in black uniforms appeared from the shadows of my living room. They moved like ghosts. In 5 seconds, the man with the knife was on the floor, handcuffed. Toby didn't even notice. He was still wearing his headphones, laughing at a cartoon on TV. I leaned against the wall and exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. I felt dizzy. "Who are those people? Why are they at my house?" Julian closed the hidden door. "I have many enemies, Sarah. I am the CEO of a company that builds security technology for governments. People want my codes. They think you are my weakness because I gave you the golden card." He looked me in the eyes. "From now on, you and Toby cannot live in that apartment. It is not safe. You will stay here, at the Shadow Estate." "But my life, my job." "Your job is here," he interrupted. "But you cannot just be an assistant who makes coffee. You need to be able to protect yourself if I am not there." The basement of steel. The next morning, Julian didn't take me to the office. Instead, he took me to the basement of the mansion. I thought it would be a dark cellar, but I was wrong. It was a massive high-tech gym with mats, targets, and strange machines. "Change into this," Julian said, handing me a set of black athletic clothes. 10 minutes later, I came out feeling awkward in the tight leggings and shirt. Julian was already there. He had taken off his sweater. He was wearing a black tank top and I could see the muscles on his arms. He had a small scar on his shoulder. "First lesson," Julian said, standing in the middle of a blue mat. "Balance. If you lose your balance, you lose your life." He told me to stand in front of him. "Try to push me, Sarah. Use all your strength." I looked at him. He was like a wall of granite. I pushed his chest with both hands. He didn't move an inch. I pushed again. Harder. Nothing. "Again!" he commanded. I got angry. I gave a loud shout and lunged at him. This time, Julian moved like water. He stepped to the side, caught my wrist, and suddenly I was flying. Thud! I landed on the soft mat on my back. I stared at the ceiling, gasping for air. "You are using your muscles, not your brain," Julian said, looking down at me. He held out his hand to help me up. "In a fight, the person with the most anger usually loses. You must be calm. Like ice." A moment of vulnerability. We trained for 3 hours. My body was aching, my hair was wet with sweat. I had fallen on the mat at least 50 times. "Enough for today," Julian said. He handed me a bottle of cold water. We sat on the edge of the mat. For a moment, he wasn't the scary CEO or the dangerous man with secrets. He just looked tired. "Why do you do this, Julian?" I asked softly. "Why live like this, with the guards, the screens, and the enemies?" He looked at his hands. "My father started this company. He was killed because he was too soft. He trusted the wrong people. I promised myself I would never be like him. I built this walls to protect what is mine." He looked at me, and for the first time, his gaze wasn't cold. It was soft. "And now, you are under my protection, Sarah. That means I will do anything to keep you safe." I felt a strange warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the exercise. "Thank you, Julian." "Don't thank me yet," he said, standing up and becoming the cold CEO again. "Go shower. We have a gala to attend tonight. You need to look like a billionaire's assistant, not a tired athlete." As I walked to my new room in the mansion, I realized something. I wasn't just Sarah the waitress anymore. I was Sarah, the girl in the middle of a secret war. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. Chapter 5. The Diamond Gala. POV. Sarah, the Transformation. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in my new bedroom. I couldn't believe the woman looking back at me was the same girl who spilled coffee 3 days ago. Julian had sent a team of stylists to my room. They had spent hours on my hair and makeup. I was wearing a long midnight blue silk dress that shimmered like the night sky. Around my neck was a simple silver chain. "It's too much," I whispered to myself. "I look like a princess, but I feel like an imposter." A knock on the door made me jump. I opened it to find Julian. He was wearing a classic black tuxedo. His hair was brushed back and he looked dangerously handsome. He stopped talking when he saw me. For a few seconds, he just stared. "You look—" He cleared his throat. "Professional. Appropriate for the event." "Professional?" I teased, feeling a bit more brave. "I think the dress is more than professional, Mr. Thorne." He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small earpiece. "Put this in. It is connected to my channel. If I tell you to move, you move. If I tell you to run, you don't ask questions. Do you understand?" I nodded, the fear returning. This wasn't just a party. It was a battlefield. The Lion's Den. The Diamond Gala was held in the ballroom of the Grand Hotel. There were hundreds of people, expensive champagne, and the sound of violins. Every woman there was wearing diamonds, and every man was talking about millions of dollars. As we entered, the room went quiet for a split second. Everyone was looking at Julian, and then their eyes moved to me. I felt like a gazelle walking into a room full of lions. "Stay close," Julian whispered, his hand lightly touching the small of my back. We moved through the crowd. Julian shook hands and talked about mergers and acquisitions. My job was to listen and remember names. "Julian, my old friend." A man with grey hair and a fake smile walked toward us. His name was Victor Volkov, one of Julian's biggest rivals. "I see you have a new assistant. She is much more beautiful than the last one." "Victor," Julian's voice was like ice, "stay away from my staff." Victor laughed, but his eyes stayed on me. "She looks nervous. Maybe she needs some air?" "She is fine where she is," Julian replied. The trap. An hour later, Julian was pulled away by the Minister of Defense. "Stay by the buffet. Don't talk to anyone," he whispered into my earpiece. I stood there holding a glass of sparkling water. Suddenly, a waiter bumped into me. "Oh, I am so sorry, miss," he said. He looked panicked. "I have spilled juice on your dress." I looked down. There was a small red stain on my blue silk. "It's okay," I said. "Please come with me to the service room. I have a special cleaner that will remove it in seconds. If Mr. Thorne sees this, I will lose my job," the waiter pleaded. I looked at Julian. He was busy talking. I looked at the waiter. He seemed so scared, just like I was at the coffee shop. My heart won over my brain. "Okay, but be fast." I followed him through a side door into a quiet hallway. As soon as the door closed, the waiter's face changed. He wasn't scared anymore. He was smiling. He reached into his jacket. My training from Chapter 4 flashed in my mind. Balance, calm, like ice. He pulled out a cloth. It smelled like strong chemicals. He tried to put it over my mouth. "Julian!" I screamed into my earpiece. I didn't wait for him. I remembered what Julian taught me. I stepped to the side, letting the man's momentum carry him forward. I grabbed his wrist and twisted it with all my strength. "Gah!" he cried. I used my palm to strike his chin, just like I practiced on the mat. He fell back against the wall. But he was bigger than me. He recovered quickly and lunged again. Suddenly, the door flew open. It didn't just open, it exploded. Julian was there. He didn't look like a CEO anymore. He looked like a predator. In 2 moves, he had the man on the floor, his knee in the man's back. "Who sent you?" Julian roared. The man didn't answer. Julian looked up at me. His eyes were wild with worry. "Sarah, are you hurt?" I'm okay," I panted. "I used the move you taught me." Julian stood up, breathing heavily. He walked over and grabbed my face with both hands, checking for injuries. "I told you not to move. I told you to stay put." "He said he was going to lose his job," I shouted back. "I was trying to be nice." Julian sighed and leaned his forehead against mine. "Being nice will get you killed in my world, Sarah, but—" He paused. "You did well. You stayed calm." I realized then that we were very close. I could feel his heart beating as fast as mine. For a moment, the gala, the enemies, and the red folder didn't matter. "We're leaving," Julian said, pulling away. "This party is over." As we walked out, I saw Viktor Volkov watching us from the balcony. He wasn't smiling anymore. He looked frustrated. I realized that Julian was right. The war had started, and I was right in the middle of it. Chapter 6. The Empty Room. POV. Sarah. The Silence of the Mansion. The ride back from the Diamond Gala was silent. The city lights blurred past the window of the limousine. Julian didn't say a word, but his jaw was tight. I could feel the anger radiating from him. He was angry at the man who attacked me, but I think he was also angry at himself. "Julian," I said softly, breaking the silence. "I'm really okay. The training worked." He didn't look at me. "It shouldn't have happened, Sarah. My house is a fortress, my cars are armoured, and yet I almost lost you because of a fake juice stain." "I was being naive," I admitted. "I forgot that in your world, a smile is often a mask." The car pulled up to the Shadow Estate. Usually the guards at the gate would wave us through with a nod, but tonight the gates were already open. 2 black SUVs were parked on the grass, their lights flashing. My heart dropped. A knot in my stomach turned into a cold stone. "Julian?" I whispered. He was already out of the car before it fully stopped. "Stay behind me, Sarah." We ran through the massive front doors. The living room was a mess. A vase worth thousands of dollars was smashed on the floor. Mrs. Higgins was sitting on the sofa, her face pale, crying into a tissue. I didn't stop to talk to her. I ran straight to the second floor to Toby's room. "Toby!" I screamed. "Toby, answer me!" I threw the door open. The bed was made. His new toy car was sitting on the nightstand. His drawing book was open on the desk. But the room was empty. The window was open, and the cold night air was blowing the curtains. "No! No, no, no!" I fell to my knees. "Toby!" Julian entered the room a second later. He looked at the window, then at the floor. He picked up a small piece of paper from Toby's pillow. It was a black card with a gold symbol, a snake eating its own tail. "Volkov," Julian hissed. His voice sounded like a cornered animal. The breaking point. "You said he was safe." I turned on Julian, my grief turning into white-hot rage. I pushed his chest, and for the first time he let me. "You told me this house was a fortress. You brought us here. You put a target on his back." I was crying now, the hot tears ruining the expensive makeup from the gala. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My little brother, the only family I had left, was gone because I wanted a better life. Julian grabbed my shoulders. "Sarah, look at me, look at me!" I looked into his blue eyes. They weren't cold anymore. They were filled with a desperate intensity. "I will get him back," he said, his voice low and vibrating. "I swear on my life, I will get him back. Volkov doesn't want Toby. He wants the Project Phoenix files. He thinks Toby is a tool." "He's a child," I sobbed. "And that is why Volkov will not hurt him yet," Julian explained quickly. "He needs Toby to keep me quiet. He made a mistake, Sarah. He came into my home. Now, I don't have to play by the rules of the city anymore." The war room. Julian led me down to a room I hadn't seen before. It was behind a steel door in the library. Inside were wall-to-wall computer screens, maps, and weapons. This wasn't an office. It was a command center. "Marcus!" Julian shouted. A tall man with a scar across his eye stood up. "Sir, we've tracked the vehicle. It's heading toward the old docks at the North Harbour." "Prepare the helicopters," Julian ordered. He turned to a locker and pulled out a black tactical vest. He threw a smaller one to me. "Put it on," he said. "I'm coming with you," I asked, surprised. "I am not leaving you here alone again," he said. He walked over to me and helped me tighten the straps of the vest. His hands were steady, which helped my own heart slow down just a little. "Stay behind Marcus and the team. Do exactly what they say." "Julian," I caught his hand. "Why the red folder? Why were you watching us before we even met?" Julian paused. He looked at the screens, then back at me. "Because your father didn't die in a normal car accident, Sarah. He worked for my father. He was the one who hid the Project Phoenix files before he died. He knew Volkov would come for them. I wasn't watching you to haunt you. I was watching you because I knew this day would come. I felt like the world was spinning. My father, a secret employee. Everything I thought I knew about my simple life was a lie. We don't have time for the full story now, Julian said, checking his watch. Every minute we wait is a minute Toby is scared. Are you ready? I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I thought of Toby's laugh, his drawings, and how he protected me when I was sad. I wasn't just a waitress or an assistant anymore. I'm ready, I said. Let's go get my brother.